I'm not sure if you're tracking what is going on with tariffs right now, but you will not believe what the White House has just done. I'm going to share with you what's going on, what could happen if you do nothing, what I am going to be doing about the tariffs. For those of you who have been living under a rock, the tariff situation with the US-China trade war has been crazy this year. Starting in January, it is slowly ratcheted up. We started with 10%, and then we tacked on another 10%, and we tacked on the fentanyl tariff, and it brought it to 54%. Then on April 2nd of 2025, we tacked on another 34%. And so China retaliated. We tacked another 34%. So the effective rate was 54% on all Chinese goods. Then a 10% tariff universally across the board. Then as China retaliated against the US, we raised it to 84%, then 125%. And on April 9th, we raised it to 145%. Well, guess what? On May the 14th, last week, everything dropped down, way back down on a 90-day truce because it was escalating out of control. Now, for those of you that were panicking and are no longer panicking, you should still be panicking. The reason is because this is a 90-day truce. And as of mid-August, it will go back into effect if nothing is agreed upon. Well, for those of you that don't know, I spent the bulk of my manufacturing career in China, and the way the Chinese think is very different than the way the US thinks. We are entering politics and using the tariffs as fairness and business strategy and economics, and the Chinese, they are approaching the tariffs from a military perspective. Without getting too much more into politics, they have 100-year goggles on and we have quarterly goggles on. But even so, it's good news, great news. Tariffs are now back effectively to 51%. Why does this matter? Hugh, that happened 2 weeks ago. Why are you still talking about it? The reason I'm talking about it is because Lowe's, Walmart, all the ships on the water, if nothing happens, all of those tariffs are immediately going to go back in place. During the posturing, the escalation where things went from 20% to 50% to 60% to 80% to 125% to 145%, those impacted. The ones on the water were not impacted. The goods on the water were not impacted. Whatever was on the water beforehand are fine. Well, right as the date was approaching where we were going to start paying 200% more on raw materials and goods imported into the United States, this truce went into effect. So everyone just kind of calmed down suddenly. Well, guess what? This is the time. If you do nothing about this and mid-August comes around and the whole US doesn't do anything, then we're going to go back to extremely high 145% tariffs, which is really bad for almost everybody involved. Right now, when you were ordering goods from Amazon, from online, from your distributors, and they were about to raise hikes, then we're going to be in a really bad place. Well, so many businesses, the moment they dropped tariffs, they ordered some stock and some inventory, and it was 2 weeks ago, and they've now forgotten, and they're back to business as usual. Well, guess what? I'm not taking that approach. I and my companies, we are buying anything that we think of that needs to scale. Hugh, you run a lean company. You're not supposed to be buying goods. No, you're not supposed to have tons of inventory. You're supposed to be doing things just in time. No, if my business is threatened because I don't have the raw materials to function, then I am going to buy those things, and I'm going to make sure that we have enough to survive and stock up on things that could have gone up in price. I was watching really, really closely all of our raw materials, things that we get from Lowe's that we need to run our businesses. Greenwood, right? We have the US-Canada tariffs. Those have calmed back down. But the Chinese tariffs are a killer for most businesses out there. I have a friend or two that they get their bread and butter. Like their main product is LED bulbs. And those only come from China. In fact, I tried to help them multi-source from Taiwan, from India, from Germany, from Japan, and nobody makes his thing. Only person that makes that thing is in China. So they would have ended up paying 145% more. If they were selling a product for $200 and their all-in material cost was $150 and they want a $50 margin, that Chinese price difference for their raw materials would bring their base cost from $150 in raw materials to $217.50. In order for them to make the same $50, they would have to raise the price to $267.50 for that thing that last week they only sold for $200. This would happen simultaneously across every business everywhere. So they have to make the choice. Do I make less money? Because I'm going to have to go up at least above that. And then, by the way, I'm just talking about raw material. Business owners, are you aware that I have a newsletter? Down below in the description, and it is full of all the tactics and stuff that if I put it on YouTube, I will be demonetized. It is a weekly newsletter that will go out telling and talking to you guys about the things that will help you and us, our businesses, stay ahead. If you're interested, Check the link, click the link below. Now, back to the video. Here in the United States, it's labor that's the issue, and the raw material build can spike, and then simultaneously, every one of our vendors, everyone who has anything that they have to sell, when I go to Lowe's and they're buying all their stuff from China, all of those things stacking together are going to increase all across the board. There's nothing we can do about it. So I'm going through and I'm buying all the most critical things, and I'm stacking reserves. Right now, we have 90 days. Remember, when tariffs were low or when tariffs were high, inventory was super difficult to come by. Most companies have already forgotten. Just 2 weeks ago, they've forgotten. Their heads in the sand. Hey, things are calm for a little bit. I don't have to worry. Well, guess what? Coming the very first week of August, if nothing's resolved, things are going to start going off the handle again. So I've got a buddy of mine. He does a mastermind group, and he sells boxes, and they have t-shirts in them, and it has cups and notebooks. Well, guess what? All of that's coming from China. And so while that's not a big deal, his mastermind group, he's ordering stock. I'm advising him to order more stock right now, even though generally you don't want to do that because you want to keep things low. Well, what if we just bought it from not China? Or what if I'm a European company and this doesn't affect me? Well, this would be a possibly good time. If your company is in Europe, you might be able to pick up some great trade deals because the companies over there are hurting. Then they're hurting a lot. So they're slashing their prices to stay afloat before they let everybody off. Well, if you're a US company, you can also start multi-sourcing. We did this. We are starting to buy more stuff from Mexico, from Vietnam, from Canada. We're actually seeing things come back alive because if things go into effect and if the tariffs comes back, or even if they stay at the 50% they're at now, companies and other countries can actually officially compete against us, or we can actually compete against the Chinese labor side. So it's actually cheaper for us. What I am doing, we are currently trying to project as much inventory as we need that are showstoppers, things that don't have the capabilities, little kind of weird electronics, anything that's digital, our door locks, our security cameras, stuff that suddenly shot up in price. Those have gone back to normalized prices. We are ordering. Well, the companies that are big like Walmart, they are starting to order a whole bunch of inventory, but that also has a very limited shelf span. They're going to order a bunch of stuff in and they're going to stick it in warehouses in case things get bad again. Well, all of this is giving all of us as business owners time to multi-source, and too many of my friends are like, oh, the trade deal, the trade war, that thing's done. We're not doing that anymore. It's been resolved. It's on pause for 90 days. Well, 90 days is a quarter. That's not that long of a time. And remember, Americans, and I'm not saying our lawmakers are doing this, but we see things in a very, very short-term view, but the Chinese don't. The Chinese think in 100 years. They think in decades, right? Their plans start with 100 years, but their general day-to-day decisions are not around pain and short-term issues. They're around the next 10 years. What will my decision right now affect me 10 years from now? That's the fundamental difference. And the 90 days that we have to stock up is also time that they are going to be approaching it from a militaristic standpoint. How am I going to renegotiate these tariffs to help China over the next 10 years? Because we don't want to be in a bad position. So short-term gain, lots of issues. Who knows what's to come? But what you should definitely not be doing is nothing. If you stuck your head right back in the sand, your Jim's mowing, your Bob's plumbing, and you're just like, oh crap, thank God all that's dealt with. There's nothing I can do about it anyways. No, there is stuff. If your Bob's mowing, you should probably start getting some extra carburetors or some things that could be hard, that could be showstoppers for you. If you have weird pieces of machinery, maybe stock up on that weird piece that could stop your production line for 2 or 3 months. Us, we are stocking up on our infrastructure, right? In the United States, most of our PECs and most of our little bits and bobs and things like that, they come from Mexico, they come from the US. A lot of it comes from China, but it's not impossible to get from other countries if we need to. What I'm saying is we are stocking up on the things that cannot be replaced, things like small electronics. Again, this is what I'm doing in my companies to stock up right now to have a safety reserve that will get us through 6 months worth of stock. So we have time to make a plan. In addition to that, we are multi-sourcing and making sure we buy stuff from countries that are not from China, at least 2 tiers down, meaning that if we buy something from somewhere in Vietnam, their supplier hopefully isn't getting it from China in case there's the country of origin issue. Or COVID-3 happens or something like that. Like that's one of the things that's a big deal. The biggest mistake you can make is to not pay attention. Back in 2020, I had a 6-week head start on COVID and I screamed it to everyone that would listen in all the group chats, in all the people that were sharing in the lean community. Oh my gosh, look at this improvement I made. Isn't this cool? And I was posting stuff like, guys, stock up. Things are bad. There's 6 weeks of inventory in the United States. It's 4 weeks in the water. Our factory's been shut down for 4 weeks. Starting next week, things are going to start getting bad. And there's going to be at least a month lag before anything happens. Guess what? So much worse happened. COVID happened, right? So you need to put the COVID hat on. You need to start thinking about contingency plans. I generally am let's be really efficient, have low inventory levels. I'm not telling you to go buy inventory of everything you have. I'm saying if you have a show-stopping ingredient, material, subcomponents that will not allow you to advance, I would start stocking. I'd start multi-sourcing and I'd get enough inventory to get you by while you're figuring that out. And another thing, if you've got, hey, we used to make this ourselves. We used to, screen print our own stuff. We shut that down because we get it all from China now. Maybe you should go fire up that machine, figure out what doesn't work on it, update the software, see if you need to buy a new tool head, start getting your stuff, get your house in order. So if things go wrong, you can at least stay open. This is going to be just like COVID if things go wrong, right? We didn't feel it during the escalations. People talked about it, but then right before things got serious, the rug was pulled out and there's another 90 days. Start planning now. It's going to be a big deal. Again, I'm telling you this because you're my friends. My friends are watching this. I'm talking to you like I would grab my friend by the collar and shake him and say, dude, get the stuff so you can stay in business, dumb. And if you don't do that, that's on you. But that's what I am doing. What do I know? Anyways, if you like this video, you're going to like this one even better. We'll see you there.